Yes, this is John G. Sutton. Welcome to Tales from the Jails. And today I want to tell you a little bit about one or two very strange inmates that I encountered on my journeys through the prison system. Talk a little bit, first of all, about a really notorious murderer that was loose in London in the 1975, I believe it was, 75, 76. He was known to the press, dubbed him the Soho Vampire. He was murdering prostitutes and draining their bodies of blood, and he was drinking the blood, you see. Well, obviously, a strange character. Anyway, he ended up in Wormwood Scrubs on Sea Wing, and it was a Saturday morning. I remember it very well. Saturday morning, and the senior officer in charge of the cinema said to me, Officer Sutton, he said, "Are you taking category A, such a body, who was the Soho Vampire, to the movies?" He said, "Cuff him up." So I got a set of handcuffs and handcuffed the Soho Vampire to myself on my left wrist, you see. So I had Soho Vampire handcuffed to me, and I took him to see the movie, which was a strange film. I believe it was called Tales from the Crypt. Yeah. Now, sitting next to me is a man who's been convicted of murdering prostitutes and drinking their blood. And the movie Tales from the Crypt told a strange story about this man who got lost in a village. There was nobody around in the day. And he went into a restaurant at night, and it turns out that all the people in the village were vampires, and that what they were having for their meal that evening was a beautiful lady who had been hung from the ceiling with a tap stuck inside her jugular vein, and they were draining the blood. Well, you can imagine what the Soho Vampire is doing when he sees this. He starts leaping around in his seat. Seriously, making a really strange shouting noise, jumping around and trying to escape from me, really. Of course, I can't let him escape, because I've got he handcuffed to me, I ain't got the keys to the handcuffs. The keys to the handcuffs are in Sea Wing. We were at the cinema just outside Sea Wing. Anyway, I managed to subdue him a little bit, gently, like you do, when you get hold of somebody by the neck and you just gently squeeze the throat until they stop breathing. Just gently, Don't want to hurt the guy. I mean, considering he's trying to, I don't know, maybe he wanted me for lunch. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, I managed to get him back into Sea Wing, and we sent for the hospital staff, who came and injected him with the usual sleeping draft, shall we say, and dragged him off to the hospital, where he was put where he should have been all along, in a padded cell, not handcuffed to me watching films about vampires. Well, that was the Soho Vampire. I was working at Strangeways, and by this time I was a hospital officer myself, having trained at HMP Liverpool. Now, anybody have been to HMP Liverpool, inside there, but round about 1979, 80, 81, when I was training there, I was on secondment with the NHS to a hospital in Liverpool, and I attended the hospital officers training school inside Walton Jail. And what a dirty, filthy, nasty, horrible place it is. I mean, I went round the landings, I wasn't working on the landings, but I was in uniform, and I went round the landings. There was filth all over the place. They'd thrown food on them. These are the prisoners, This is where they're sleeping, where they eat, And this is their living accommodation. They just throw the food on the floor. It was an absolute disgraceful dump of a place. Walton Jail. Avoid that, you know. I mean, I don't think you really get to book your own accommodation, but if you do, don't book Walton Jail, alright? Anyway, back to me being a hospital officer, and I was in charge of the hospital ward. See, I had actually passed all the exams at the Home Office, and I've got my passing certificate in my wallet somewhere. Let me see if I can find it, yeah? I'll see if I can find that. Oh, here we are. I think this is it, yeah? Hey, here we are, yeah. This is all they gave you, you know? You took the exam, they sent you this in an envelope, yeah? It says here, Civil Service Commission, Allendon, Basingstoke, Herts, Home Office, Prison Officers Department, the Prison Officers Promotion Exam, May 1981. It says what I came 10th in the country. Said there were number of candidates in the competition, because it's not just an examination, it's a competition. Only the top 20% pass, or something like that. All the rest fail. No matter how good you are, you fail. It says the number in the competition 1,343. Your position in order of merit 10. So I was 10th out of 1,343, which wasn't bad considering I did absolutely no studying for the examination whatsoever. Tell you what I did do though, that you had to write a little essay about how you describe how you will deal with this following situation. You know, there's a riot on the training yard, and what will your actions be? So I didn't use writing. I didn't use. I printed it, and I put little bullet points. You know, first of all, you do this: press the alarm bell, send for the game, get the dog handlers out, all the rest of it. You know, and that's how I did it. Because I reasoned, you see, that this examination was going to be marked by chief officers, and you're going to get extra points if they can read it. Get the idea? Anyway, there we are. You can all see that, yeah? And that's all you got for passing the exam. But once you pass the exam, you're in the field for promotion, you see. So, although I'd only just qualified as a hospital officer, because I was in the field for promotion, I was put in charge of the hospital ward, you see. And on the hospital ward was a very strange inmate who was being treated for burns. And this man, what he'd done was, I spoke to him, you know, he was very upset, you know, so listen, if I'd been in there and I was upset, I'd like somebody to speak kindly to me. So I did speak kindly to him and asked him to tell me, you know, do you want to talk about what's happened to you? What had happened was, he lived in a place called Cheetham Hill, yeah, which is part of Manchester. And he said that his neighbours were violent and aggressive people who were abusing him and his family. And he complained to the council, because he lived in a council house. He complained to the council and asked them to relocate him. And the council wouldn't do it. So to prove to the council that he was being intimidated, threatened and abused by his neighbours, he got a can of petrol. I mean, how do they do this? He got a can of petrol and poured it through his own front door. Well, and then he lit it. But unfortunately, instead of causing what he would probably have expected, or he did tell me that he expected it to be a fire that would burn the front door and the hall, he didn't do that, because about a week before he did this, the house had been redecorated by the council and they'd painted all the woodwork, so the fumes from the paint were still being emitted and they were flammable. So as soon as the fire went off in the hall, it went straight up the stairs, and that's where his children were, 2 girls, and they were badly burnt, and he couldn't get them out because, of course, the fire by this time is a roaring inferno. And he was charged with manslaughter. I believe it wasn't deliberate murder, but it was manslaughter of his own children. Well, they weren't dead at that time. I took him to the hospital to see them, the 2 children, and they were like, we went to Booth Hall Hospital, it was, near Boggart Hall, Clough, and they were in Booth Hall Hospital, and they looked like wrapped up like Egyptian mummies, you know, with tubes here and everywhere. But they didn't live. They lasted a few days, but that was the last time he saw him when I took him there. And he was obviously devastated by this, but I did my best to calm him down. In that hospital ward, you know, I got the education department to come in and do literature, you know, basic reading and writing with the occupants, because a lot of them couldn't read or write. Really, I would think it's about 40% in the prison population that were illiterate. So I did try and do that, and I instituted literature nights. When I was on late duties, I used to read stories to them and get them all sat round. You know, come on, let's sit. No matter who they were, murderers, rapists, doesn't matter. Sit down here. We're going to have a little story now. Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then John will begin. And I used to read them, believe it or not, Richmond Crompton, Just William stories. And a lot of these people had never heard of Just William, and they're rolling about laughing, facing life ×6 or something like that. Yeah, in prison for a long time, but just for a brief moment, they were able to escape in their mind and go to a special place where little William was having a lot of fun with his gang called the Outlaws. And that's Tales from the Jails today. Please do subscribe if you're new here, please, yeah. It helps, it's down there somewhere, I don't know how you do it. And have a look at my book, Psychic Screw. It's on Amazon. This is John G. Sutton. I'll no doubt be back soon. Bye.